Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Big Dang Guys Reviews. Alright, so real quick, before we begin, I want to say that this is going to be a little more structured than my normal videos. And the reason why I have a different background is because it's currently spring break and I am at my dad's. And so this video, the reason it's going to be a little more structured is because I'm doing a little more of a project for my teacher, Mr. Potoshnik, who wanted us to do a review of a certain film. Whatever we wanted to do, as long as it was within the different boundaries, and it was about the Cold War. And so, and here was the catch. It had to be one that I had never seen before. Well, me being a nerd, I mean, I'm wearing a Attack on Titan t-shirt, I've seen a lot of movies. And so I had to try to find a film that I had never seen before. And so we're going back and forth about the different films, and then I remembered a film that my dad, who I'm now seeing, had wanted me to watch a few years ago, but I never had a chance to, called The Hunt for Red October. And I figured, well, coming over to visit Dad, might as well give it a little shot. And so I gave it a shot today, and I loved it. I loved it. And so I'm doing a review of it for my class, and so this is going to be a little more structured. First I'm going to be explaining who worked on the film and stuff like that, and I'll be going from there. And then at the end I will kind of go a little sidetracked and then talk about the film itself and go a little more crazy like I normally am. And so bear with me. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and yeah, see you on the other side. Alright, so first of all, I need to talk about the movie. It's called The Hunt for Red October, which takes place in the Cold War. And the director is John McTiernan. Sorry, I may be butchering that last name. It was released in 1990, and it actually has a great cast. It has Sean Connery as the main Russian captain. Alec Baldwin, who plays Jack Ryan, a scientist for the United States about all the subs and stuff like that. Sam Neill, who played Dr. Alan Grant in the Jurassic Park 1 and 3. God, I still hate that movie. He's in this as the captain of the Soviets' second in command. And James Earl Jones, who's one, I gotta say, I love his voice acting, especially as Darth Vader. He plays Admiral Greer, who was the admiral for the United States, and he's one that talked to Alec Baldwin's character about all this and went from there. And this character probably surprised me the most. Tim Curry, who was in films like Clue, one of my personal favorites, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show and other films. He's in this one. And he plays Dr. Petrov, who is the doctor for the Soviet sub called the Red October. The producers were Larry DeWay, Mace Newfilm, and Jerry Sherlock. Love that last name. And so, yeah, those are some of the main highlights of people that worked on it. Pardon me. Excuse me. And so, really quick, this film, it was not a true story. However, it was based around one. And I may be incorrect on what the story was based on. This is just what I heard. And I should be probably doing a little more deep digging into it, but as far as I know, that this film was actually a fictionalized interpretation of a mutiny that happened on a Russian sub. And this film, it kind of takes it a step further, and it's based around that, but loosely. And so with that being said, the premise around this film is that Sean Connery's character, who plays Captain Ramus, he and some of his higher-ups in the Soviet boat, the Red October, they want to defect to the U.S. Now, how they plan on it is to basically stealing this brand new Soviet submarine, which is freaking huge, I gotta say. It's about the size of an aircraft carrier. But they're planning to basically take it, and he was put in control, bring it to the U.S., defect there, get them the subs, say bye-bye to the Soviet Union. However, they had to get the crew off. And so that's basically where this entire thing started. And the crew getting him off. So very few people knew about this. Only like a few different of the higher-ups. And they basically want a better life. They don't want any more of the Cold War from the Soviet side. They just want a new start. Sean Connery, his character, lost his wife about a year prior to the events of this film, and he'd been at sea for many years, and he's used to it. He's one of the most decorated naval officers in the entire Soviet fleet, and he basically had enough. I mean, he died his wife died. Pardon me. His wife died when he was at sea trying. And so that really puts huge impact onto the character. Sorry, I'm still not used to this chair. And so the film goes from there. And his tactics are very much, I guess, his own. Anyway, so he's one of those kind of characters, like old man. He knows what he's doing. Not a lot of people know what he is until it actually happens. No one knows how he ticks. And so the film, it's about himself and his other people. They're trying to go, and all the while the Cold War is happening. And the best way to explain the Cold War, and thank you again, Mr. Ptoshnik, it's basically like, it's between one or more countries where they are trying to outdo each other, like technology-wise. Like, for example, the U.S. builds a nuke, the Soviets build a nuke. We build an A-bomb, they build an A-bomb. So on and so forth, get bigger and bigger compared to one another. And the Soviet subs right now, the Soviets, they have their nuclear submarines all patrolling around the ocean. We have no idea where they are. And the United States, they're trying to build up their other arsenal, and then they see the Soviets, they're building up their own. We get paranoid, the Soviets get paranoid, it goes from there. People are trying to get a lot more. We want to basically outdo the other person, and it just goes and escalates a lot. And so Alec Baldwin's character, Jack Ryan, the scientist, he finds a picture about this new German sub. And so anyway, he's looking at it, and he sees these new tubes. He's wondering what the heck these can be about. And so he's doing more research onto it. It goes from there. And James Earl Jones's character, Admiral Greer, he talks to Alec Baldwin's character. They work together, and then eventually it leads to the war room, talking to, I think it was assistant to the president. I forget who it was. It wasn't the president himself. I forget who the other guy was. One of the higher ups, and an embassy guy. And so anyway, they're talking about with one another in this huge war room. They got these other people in there, and they're all talking about it. Alec Baldwin, he comes with his own ideas about what could be happening, and all the other generals, which are people in there, are wondering what this could be about, because they think that new sub, evidently they're coming in to go and take out the U.S. I mean, the boat can go right up to the U.S. shore, launches missiles, we're dead. That's what was going through a lot of people's mind. However, Alec Baldwin's character, he had actually met Sean Connery's character a few years prior at a dinner meeting. And they didn't really know each other that well, but they knew each other enough. And so anyway, everyone's going back and forth. People are like, what the hell is your credentials to Alec Baldwin's character? And he basically says that, I know what I'm talking about. I met the guy. What other experience do you have? And shut him up. I gotta say that was a good scene. Good burn, Alec Baldwin. Sorry, getting a little sidetracked. Anyway, so eventually he goes onto another boat, which I had been detecting a sub, and they are like going back and forth. They're trying to figure out Sean Connery, and eventually it leads them there. However, another thing that's going on is prior to going on trying to defect to the U.S., Sean Connery wrote a letter to the Soviet higher-ups, sent it to them saying like, hey, we are going to defect. He took the new nuclear submarine with all these other missile tubes, and he's saying that he's defecting to the U.S. Yeah, in response, the Soviets sent their entire naval fleet. What? Really quick, I'm skipping for a sec. I just kind of wanted to go over this for a sec. What in the world was going through this guy's mind? I understand that he kind of has a death wish. It definitely seems to a lot of other characters and to the audience like myself. But still, he's really that cocky? One of the other things that happens earlier on in the film is... sorry. I'm sidetracking. I promise I'll go right back onto the main subject. Anyway, so one of the other things that happened was he and the higher-ups that are going to be defecting were at a meeting, and he was talking to them, and they're all around this table, and he was talking to them, and Sam Neill was in there, and he said, well, I wrote a letter, and then everyone's just wondering, what the hell's going through your mind, man? And pardon my language, but really, though, if he hadn't wrote the letter, at least they would have had more of a leeway against the Soviets and being able to get right to the point. And so for me as well, I'm wondering what is going through this guy's mind. Why does he do this? And they don't really explain it. So anyway, that whole plot's going on. They're getting chased by the Soviets. And then eventually everything ends up. I'm not going to spoil what happened. I'm going to put a spoiler alert really quick. So spoiler alert, skip about a minute or two. So at the end, they do get away from the Soviets, and they all live happily ever after. And there's a really tense end fight scene. And spoiler, the end fight scene, or not really fight scene, but the end escape scene, I'm not going to be explaining anything about, but it's really, really good. And so yeah. So the settings of this film, it takes place inside of the Soviet subs and on land. It doesn't really take place very much in Russia or anything like that. Mostly in the U.S. and then in the different subs and the aircraft carrier. Hang on. Sorry, I have a list. That's why I have my laptop here. Alright, so the next thing, and then I promise I'll be able to go more in my own direction. So, one of the other things that was a question from you, Mr. Potoshnik, so thank you for this, it's a very good one, is that the difference between good and evil and how it's portrayed in this film. It actually kind of has somewhat of a blurred line here because... Well, think about it. The Cold War is going on. Your arch enemy, in this case, and everyone's just against each other. I mean, all you need is just one little button, a nuke will go over, kill the other people, all-out war breaks loose again. Everything is lining on a thin edge throughout this time. And the United States, they are willing... half of them are scared to death, and... only a few people are wondering, hang on, they might not be as bad as we expect them to. And so, in all honesty, I don't think that there's any really quote-unquote good or evil in this case. Sean Connery's character, he kills another man, early on in the film. I'll get to that later. So he kills another man in his own office, earlier in the film. And for the first like half, everyone's just wondering, okay, this guy's crazy. He can go over, he can kill the U.S. What is he going to do? But then you kind of see a little more heart in him. He's not really caring about the crew. He's very much his own guy. The only other person that he really seems to have any really emotional connection to is Sam Neill's character, who's the second in command. I mean, there was one scene in which the two of them were talking inside of Captain's cabin and like what they're planning to do after they finally leave the Soviets. And that scene, I'm talking purely on that because there's other stuff going on. I'm not going to go into that right now, but there's just an emotional connection between these two characters, and they're all made out to be bad guys, but at the same time they have some good in them. And they just... it portrays innocence. I guess that's the best way to put it. Just innocence with these characters. And then you have Alec Baldwin. He is a family man. He wants what's best. He's the voice of reason in this film, if there is even one. And you have all the other characters, Soviets and Americans alike, teetering on the edge between, do we attack or do we let them in? What's going on? And so, I don't really know. I guess the only bad guys in this film are the Soviets. And the reason for this is because they actually lie to the U.S. and say, hey, to this guy, he took our own sub using the letter, and they're basically putting fuel into the fire of the Americans' say of they're our enemy and what's going on. And if it wasn't for Alec Baldwin's character, the Red October would have been sunk. It most definitely would have been sunk, no doubt about it. Pardon me, Miss Sec. Sorry, my throat gets a little dry after talking too long. And they're lying to the U.S., saying like, yeah, he's going to go, he's going to kill you guys, watch out, help us, we need to kill them. And there's this whole stuff going on. And so there's definitely a lot of mistrust. The only like bad guys of the film itself are the Soviets. But in all honesty, there's not really any face of the Soviets. They are kind of a lingering entity, I guess is the best way to put it. The only face of what can be the bad guy is the Soviet ambassador to the U.S., who's talking to one of the U.S. politicians who was the head of the meeting in the war room. And he's saying like, oh yeah, it's just a training exercise. While in reality, they're trying to kill the... not a training exercise, but a rescue mission, while in reality trying to kill the U.S. Not the U.S., the Red October. And they're going like that. And he's kind of the voice of the Soviets in this case. And he's the most dominant one, I guess is the best way to put it. Another face of the Soviets are a captain of a Soviet sub who is so determined to kill the Red October, bring it down, follow orders as best as he possibly can. We only see him for probably like, I don't know, 3 minutes or so in the entire film, and this is a 2-hour-long movie. It's a long sucker. Or I think almost 2.5 actually. I forget. I need to check again. And he's like the only bad guy in this film, which I think is really well done. And so, anyway, I'm done talking about the good and evil. Now let's get to what is my favorite. So, Mr. P, if you have enough, feel free to end this video, but if you'd like to watch a little more and figure out what's more on my channel, feel free to watch for the remaining, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. Alright, so, time for the film itself. I love the cinematography of the film. I really, really loved it. Oh, actually, really quick, Mr. P, don't stop. Watch. This this is my evaluation of the film, if you will. The film was really well done. Sean Connery pulled off a great guy. Even though Sean Connery's main character, he is Scottish, like he is, that's his native tongue, he definitely pulls off a good Russian character, I gotta say. And Sam Neill, he's like the only... He's like the only guy that couldn't really pull off a very big, good Russian accent, I gotta admit. Which kind of was disappointing, to tell you the truth. Most of the other Soviet actors that they had in there pulled off a Russian accent. But then you get Sam Neill, and only like a couple of his lines are even sounding Russian at all. And I know it's a minor thing, and it's just an accent, but still, it's one of the things that I was just saying to myself, okay, I know he's speaking English in this, but have an accent. Try a little more to have an accent. But with that being said, the transition from the Soviets speaking Russian to English was terrifically well done. So the first, 20 minutes of the film, whenever you see a Russian character, they're always speaking Russian, not really English at all. And that's actually kind of rare for a film. For most films, I mean, you may have a character speaking a different language, but they would have like an interpreter. Like in Return of the Jedi, Jabba the Hutt, he has Bib Fortuna, or not Bib Fortuna. Well, he does kind of talk. You have C-3PO being the interpreter between the Jabba and like Luke and other characters in the film. And or like the character can say like, oh yeah, right at the end, I speak English too. That very rarely happens in them. And now one of the things I liked most about it was the transition. For the first however many minutes, they're just speaking Russian. Purely Russian for the Russian characters. And then right at the end, they start to speak a little bit less Russian. Less Russian. No subtitles, and then goes around the room, comes back. Hello, how you doing? Speaking English. Very, very well done. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, that was probably one of the best transitions I've seen between like a character or a setting that I've seen in a long time. My apologies about drinking. Now, another thing about this film, Sean Connery, like I said at the beginning, he was portrayed as a bad guy. Well, one of the things that he did early on was kill a guy in his own bunk room. Why did he, though? He just killed him. I guess it's because like he didn't want to hire up there. Actually, no, that was why. But the thing that really struck me was he did it in a creative way. He killed a guy and made it look like he had slipped on his own tea. And with that, though, the only other time that it really comes up is when he takes off the key, because like two leaders seem to have the keys to the missiles to attack, and he takes both of them. But other than that, the only other scene where they really portray it is when Sean Connery and Sam Neill are talking to the other higher ups and on the Red October, and are discussing their other future plans, and they're like saying, why did you kill him? Why did this happen? You should have consulted us before. Not saying that he didn't deserve it, their words, but why? And other than that, throughout the entire film, this guy isn't even mentioned in it. I mean, a guy's killed on your boat. What? If someone dies on your boat, aren't you going to be a little worried? Okay, was an accident. But still, a guy died on your freaking boat! I don't know. And so that's just one of the things that I don't know. And now for something that I really enjoyed, and I'm running out of time here. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about this film, probably most of all, was the fact that the differences between the characters of the Soviets and the United States. So I'm going to be talking about the difference of the subs and then the difference of the uniforms if I have time. So the Russians, their submarine is very metallic, like very, very metal. Kind of steampunkish, like I guess is the best way to put it. Very dark and gloomy areas with just a little lights. Almost like car lights, shining that bright, but buttons on there. And no plastic at all. It's just all metal and stuff like that, and very dark and gloomy. There's no any like bright spot. But then you get to the Americans. Everything's bright and futuristic looking. You got the plastic all around. It's the closest thing I can describe it to is excuse me. The closest thing that I can put it to is in the first Alien film. So for those of you who have seen Alien, there was this computer called Mother, where they went and then they got their orders from the Weyland-Yutani Company. But that room was very similar to like the sonar room, where like this guy named Jonesy who finds Red October, where he I just made a connection. I'll say it in a sec. In that room, it's very plastic all the way around. It has these computers with the same textile-like letters all around them where you type them up, and then the sonar is going. Even out in the main room, it does have all the metallic, but it's a lot brighter. I mean, it's a lot brighter, a lot more blue. And then you have plastic on it still, and it looks a lot more futuristic looking. The Soviet one, not really any plastic except for on the cabinets where you would open them. So that being said though, another change that I saw was that the Soviets all wore basically the same uniform. The only difference was their face. Obviously they all had different faces, but other than that, the differences in the uniforms, there were only a few that I saw. Like the doctor, Tim Curry's character, he had just a single stripe going on his arm, on either one. Well, the other higher-ups, they had two. In Tim Curry, he wasn't on this entire thing. He was oblivious. But the thing is, though, excuse me. Other than that, there wasn't much of a difference. I mean, there was like a cook. He was wearing his cooking uniform. There were the sailors and then the higher-ups. Those were basically the only three. Go to the Americans, they all have completely different uniforms on, especially for the sailors. I mean, there's one guy with like a baseball-like cap with U.S. Navy. He is wearing like, not a jacket, but like a button-up shirt, and then you got other people wearing like a traditional naval uniform, and everyone just looks a lot different. And I love the way that they pulled it off. I think it was very good. And so really quick, I'm running out of time here and I don't want to do a two-parter. This film, I gotta say, it's not the greatest film that I've ever seen. I think that it could have done some stuff a little bit different. However, it is a pretty damn good film, I got to say. Definitely one that I will watch, but not one that I'll watch like over and over and over. I have to be in a mood for it. The only reason why I would buy it is in case I do get into the mood. I am definitely going to put it on Netflix again and try to find this film. Probably in like a year or so, if it's still on, hopefully. But I don't know. It's one of those that I have to be in a mood for this kind of a film. And so overall, I got to say that this film deserves 3.5 stars out of 5. I recommend it if you know stuff about the Cold War. If you're studying in school, definitely take a watch. But look for all the different little hints to the Cold War and what's going on. It's actually kind of an eye-opener. So thanks, Mr. P. And so anyway, again, 3.5 stars out of 5. Definitely pick it up if you ever get a chance, but if not, don't worry. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you all enjoy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you want to take a look at my other reviews, go into my channel, just click on the name, you go to my channel, and take a look at some of the other videos. So until the next one, I hope you all enjoy and have a good day. Bye.